Okay, everybody. Well, it's time to salute. It's time to salute Terry. How does it work, Dan?
Well, we give Terry a salute, and if he's blessing this podcast, he's going to salute back.
Okay, start again. Ready?
How?
3, 2. What do we start this with Terry, Dan?
Okay, you want me to?
Let's start with Terry.
The first thing to say is start with Terry.
And let's do it.
Okay.
Is Terry?
In
No,
3,
I'm
2,
just
1.
saying.
Terry?
Well, I don't know if we'll put this in now. That's Terry the Triceratops.
Okay.
Okay, so how we start this is
Yes.
this is Terry the Triceratops.
Okay.
And we need to salute him. And if he's going to bless this podcast, if it's going to be a good one,
Yep.
Oh, wow.
he will salute back.
Okay. There we go.
Oh, no, it's not looking good.
Oh,
Oh, there it is. Yes.
And that's the salute?
That's his official.
Wow.
Oh, gosh.
Thank you,
I don't know
Terry.
what that means.
Welcome to.
It's going to be a good podcast.
Welcome to the Vault podcast.
There it is.
Ew.
This is the very first episode. Dan and I have done episode 0.
We did test.
That was
Which I
good.
test.
I was told it was worthless.
Never seen a better episode 0 of anything.
I had to get up at like 12. It was terrible.
Well, wake up at
What?
12.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
So
Wow.
with us
It's early
today,
for me.
we have Funny Man Dan from
My house.
his house. We have Jess Mclean, who
Yep.
is Hillsong Kids pastor in Hillsong Kids Australia, and Dave Wakerley, creative guy from Hillsong Kids.
Creative guru.
And
He
we are
does
here
stuff.
on episode number 1.
Yes, we are.
We have equipment. We have a studio audience.
We have coffee.
We have coffee. We don't really have a studio
With my
audience.
daughter.
Anyway, we have your daughter who's sick today.
Yeah.
But that's okay. And
Sick of school, I heard.
I want to start. I want to start
much.
this off because I want to start up with a serious question. Why are we here?
Ooh.
Why are we doing this podcast? Why? There's a million podcasts out there, and it always seems like every week there's a new one starting, just like this one is. So why are we here?
So many reasons.
Well, I personally work for both of you, so I'm contractually obliged to be here.
Right. Apart from you, Dan,
gosh.
the reason we're doing this YouTube channel is because we want to help our leaders' YouTube show. Look, if you're listening or watching, by the way, you could be watching on YouTube or listening on a podcast.
on the line.
We're doing this because we want to train our own team. We want to help resource the entire world. We make stuff, we do stuff, and we want to do more. And to be honest, we could put the same amount of effort into doing this for our own team here in Australia or the entire world. So why not do it for the whole world?
Why not? Why not?
That was my thinking, right? Because if you're going to put effort into something, you really want people to see it.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is the answer to why is why not?
Exactly.
Exactly.
We want to be your kids' team. Most kids pastors around the world are volunteer, especially in Australia, and most are single people. They could be married, but they're singular team members on a staff, and we want to be your team.
Yeah.
We want you to hang out with us every single week, and we're
cheer
going
you
to
on.
cheer you on. We want to answer your questions. We want to make you feel like you're not the only person in the world who does the same thing.
Maybe help you laugh off a few things.
100%.
So,
Yeah.
so consider this our official application.
What's that mean?
Well, to
be
apply
your
to be part of
friends.
their team.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you're in our team if you're watching this.
Yes.
But so we want
No,
to
we're
apply.
in their team.
We want to be a part of your
team. Yes.
Yes.
So
Now
send us
take
your
us all.
applications.
We're 3 in 1, but if you have to separate us, take me.
This is because the reality is in the wider church, people do not see what we do in kids ministry because they're doing they're doing things with adults.
Yep.
And I'm sure that's fine.
Yeah.
But we want you to know. We want you to know, listening and watching, that we understand.
Yes.
We've done what you
We see you.
We
see
know.
you.
Sometimes you think to yourself, if only they knew.
If only you knew. Product placement, Dan. We'll get to that later. If you're not watching, that Dan just held up our product placement for the
I will do that 6 more times.
our sponsor. We don't really have a sponsor. I mean, it's me.
It's Terry.
It's kids. It's Terry the
Terry.
Triceratops. And we are here to answer your questions. Number 3,
Yes.
we're here to answer your questions because we know you have them and we want to hear them. And so if you do have questions, now the tricky thing with doing a first episode of anything is you don't really have any questions yet. We've gone to our own team and our own team around the world and we've asked for questions. We've got a few to talk about today, but I need more questions. I need you to email
Please ask your questions.
kids@hillsong.com. Kids, that's probably a good place, right? I haven't thought about this.
I thought you were going to
Yeah, you
comment
did.
or something.
Yeah, you comment below.
We can create one.
Comment below on this YouTube with your questions. But if you have a big question, a serious question,
do you want
email
the
us
vault-
at kids.
the vault at
at
Hillsong?
Shall we?
Ooh, let's
Tell
do
you what,
it.
We can get it.
We can potentially get it. For this week, let's send it to kids@hillsong.com. That exists.
Yep.
Yeah.
and just say podcast question. I'm going to print them out. We'll read them out for next time. But maybe we need to set up an official. We should see how we go.
Yeah.
In post-production.
That could be fun.
Maybe in the description below there might be.
Fact check the
Let
email.
me send the
fact
official.
checker.
Dan's going to literally ask.
He's our fact checker.
He's going to go to our IT
Yeah.
department and ask for an email right now.
Yeah.
Ooh, I
Maybe
might
you can get it done in an
I
hour.
might get
You
a
never
response by the
know.
end of the show.
It might be set up already.
Yeah.
All right. So, who are we? So we've talked about why we're doing this. And we need to talk about who are we.
Yes.
Dan and 30. Well, you're writing an email. I'll start with me. My name's Dave. I grew up in New Zealand in a little town called Southbridge, a town of maybe 700 people. Tiny.
What?
And I thought it was much bigger when I was growing up, but there were 150 kids in our school, in my whole primary school.
It's actually a lot for
My whole elementary
that
school. Well, there was
size
a lot of
town.
farmers that lived in
Yeah.
there. So a lot of farmers who brought whose
Yeah.
kids came into the school. And I got married to my wife Becky at the age of 21. And then a year into our marriage, we came to Australia for Bible college at Hillsong Church.
Yeah, you did.
And then 2 years after that, we came on staff at Hillsong Kids. And from there to then, we've had pretty much the same job and done the same thing in our church.
So cool.
Jess, who are you?
Who am I? I grew up in and around Sydney, Australia.
Oh, yeah.
And came to our church when I was a teenager. Didn't even know kids ministry existed until my husband came on team with Dave and Becky.
True story.
And then we learned all about what it was, what it is. And then the rest is history. It's been, 13, 14 years, something like that.
That's
yeah.
amazing. Time really flies.
It does.
So you kind of started in youth ministry and then became
Fell in
aware that
love
your
with
husband,
kids ministry.
100%, because it's a good thing. There are different pressures. Knowing both of those worlds is important for us.
Yeah.
Dan, who are you?
Well, my name is funny. My last name is Mandan. I was born in Tasmania. That is
There it is.
actually why.
That's why, if you've ever wondered, Funny Man Dan, if you've ever seen him on a DVD and a curriculum and a product of ours, a resource,
Yep.
that's why it says Taz on the side of his shirt.
Yeah, and I came to Hillsong in 2003. Was my first time I ever did a Hillsong Kids.
Are you for real?
Yeah, 2003. 1st of March,
No,
2003.
that's not when you came to our church, though.
Came to church 2002.
Yeah, it sounded like you were saying 2003 was when you came.
Well, I came 6 months earlier.
What? Only?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
We really...
I didn't even realise that.
Yeah, my wife.
That just escalated quickly, didn't it?
he wasn't here long.
My wife.
And then he was juggling and balancing
Oh
things.
yeah. Funny quick story.
Yes.
On the first day of the Hillsong Kids service, which obviously changed my life and set my course straight.
Yeah, it did.
I was at a little Youth for Life conference, and the person that drove the youth van back to do my first kids service when I met the first day, I'm now married to him for 12 years. So I met my wife on the first day I did Hillsong Kids service.
Oh my
Isn't that awesome?
It is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's bringing people together. That's what we do
Yeah.
at Hillsong Kids. We bring people together.
Yep.
And I make people laugh, and I work with Dave. And
Yes.
we make all sorts of things for the world.
Epic stuff.
We really, really do. We'll be talking about that a bit later on. But if you are on the YouTubes right now, then go see Funny Man Dan's channel and subscribe. Because it's specifically for kids. This is for adults, for grown-ups who lead, and his channel is
So
for
if
your
you're a kid,
kids.
just go away. We want to talk about you.
Yeah, we want to talk about you,
Not
not
to
to
you.
Exactly. I was going to say
We're
that.
getting off of that.
It's not a great start for kids ministry.
Stop listening.
Yeah.
Don't listen
To
to
be
this.
seen but not heard.
So we,
No, it's not.
That's not what we do.
No.
next on my schedule says here what's going on in our worlds. So what are we doing at the moment at
Whoa.
Hillsong Church? Because as you're part of our team now and we're part of your team, let's get on the same page.
Yep.
What are we up to at the moment? Well, we're getting ready for Kids Fest.
Yeah, we are. Oh my goodness. One
very close.
epic, huge day of fun. Hope you're all going to be there.
Yeah.
If you're from overseas, just fly in. Why not? What a day.
If you're overseas and you're a child under the age of 12, come on in. Come on and fly all the way here. But well, with your parents. But that happens across Australia. Our big one in Sydney. We have one big one again. Everybody from Sydney comes to our Hills campus, which is in the northwest of Sydney, and it's huge.
Yes.
We're talking a full day. Like basically you could arrive at 8 and leave at 5 or something.
Yep.
And we pack that day full of a lot of things. We've got outdoor rides, carnivals, indoor. We do rallies. Dan will be doing some shows. We mix in shows and preaching and praise and worship and everything in one big day of Kids Fest. It's and again, it's a massive event, but for us it's great because it's just one day.
Funds, friends, and faith all in one day.
Oh, good.
Exactly.
I like the way you said that. So that's coming up for us, and we're feeling ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
Are we?
Our team, some of our team will be travelling around. Dan, you'll be going around to all of them around Australia.
Yes, I'll be going to all of them, except 2 are on the same day, so I'm going to one of them. And I'm not going to tell you which one.
Oh, surprise.
Yeah, but it's not Darwin. So it's Perth.
So,
but you're going to Darwin. Yeah, so if I'm not a place, then Jess goes.
Yeah.
Right, and do you do funny stuff, Jess? Or just
totally
she does, and
not.
I'm going to preach in Perth.
Oh, dear.
Right. Kids Fest is coming up. What else is coming up in the life of our church, in the life of your team?
Oh, we've got that big Kids Next Gen showcase coming up.
Oh, totally.
In church.
That's very exciting.
A new thing for our
Can you tell us
church
the
is...
history about that?
Well, the history is we used to do a thing each year because our senior pastor, Brian, loved it, called the Animated Bible Story. And this is when our kids get involved in our services, our adult services. And it was usually a Bible story told and the kids acted out. They wear costumes... and it's fun.
It was a Bible story from the NRT.
What's that?
The New Ridiculous Translation.
New Ridiculous Translation. Yes. It was really just, it's so much about fun. And it's really, that was the purpose of it. We want to have fun at church. And we know that if kids are having fun, they're learning. So even if adults are having fun. Anyway, that was the purpose of it. Now this year it's kind of morphed into this giant presentation. What would you call it?
It's a talent thing.
It's a talent thing.
Yeah, it's
That's
like
literally
kids
the way
just
you
get to
describe
jump
it.
on stage and just be talented, and we all go, "Oh wow!" And the paparazzi come down the front, and it's just a lot of fun.
Like a Rocker Stedford or a big school showcase. It's a Hillsong
Kids show.
Showcase. Kids got talent.
And that happens at varying
Simon
degrees
Cowell's
across
not gonna be
Australia
there.
at all of our locations. How many
Yes.
locations do we have now? People should
A
know
lot.
that.
I
Because when
should
we
know
say
that.
locations,
Hang on, fact check.
when Dan will fact check, when we say locations, you might be thinking in your own mind, oh, there's a couple of different. No, we're talking.
It's like 30 in Australia. Yeah, 30-ish.
So 30 different locations around Australia, and
We're in 21 countries.
No. Let's narrow it down
I
to
don't think
Australia.
you're going to find this answer on Google, Dan.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's 30.
Let's just say 32.
Okay.
Just make up
Let's
a
just
number.
Let's say 32.
Let's say 32 locations.
With the links, it probably is. Yeah.
All the way, now kids ministries all the way from a couple of thousand hotels to 23, right?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So it happens at varying degrees, but it's the same thing that goes on. Our creative team distributes all of the stuff that every location needs to make it happen.
I really like that about our church. Like, it's a culture of this is kind of what we're doing, this is where we're going. And it's usually stuff that's on our senior pastor's heart to help with momentum. But then I love that we scale it, like the creative team and the kids team. We go, okay, this is like the options of how to make this great at any size location.
Absolutely.
I just love it. I think
And we
it's
make
really
it
cool.
work, and we make it fun.
Which is a unique thing about our kids' ministries. How many kids would come to Hills on a weekend?
Hills is about 1,400.
1,400? And then how many people would come to... Oh,
Wollongong.
Wollongong, yeah. How many kids?
80.
80?
Yeah,
So we've got
33% of the congregation. Holy moly.
Massive span of different...
And that's the thing. The thing I love looking at, and the thing you need to be tracking in your ministry as a leader is not so much the numbers, but definitely the percentage of adults to kids. So we know in our locations, in the city location where we're currently filming this, the city is lots of students, lots of single people, not as many families. So we're talking maybe 10 to 12% of ours is kids.
Yeah.
Now that wouldn't be, if you're in a family location like our Northwest, is maybe more up around 15%, 15, 16, 17%. And then when you get to Wollongong, which is
like 30-ish.
30%. Our record is
Crazy.
50%. We had a Pacific Island service at one point in our church, and it was 50% of the church was kids under the age of 12. So that's our record. And I encourage any leader to know that number, know what it is, because then you can track that as you grow, as you go along in ministry, you'll be able to see, hang on, all of a sudden we're down to 8% kids in our service, but it might still be more kids.
Yeah.
It might be, you might have now 100, 200 kids instead of 100, but you might only be, percentage might be lower, and that's a really good thing to know.
It helps with like keeping it in perspective with how much of your church's leadership community is actually focused on families. And then also later down the track, if you get to build a building, then you need to scale your kids' rooms, like the square meterage, off your head count and stuff like that. So
That's very true. That's a very good
It
point.
is intriguing.
And if you don't know the number, just make it up. 32.
32. Like we made up how many services and locations we had.
32.
Well, 32 locations are probably about 100 services. I don't know. What are we up to now?
So many.
So many.
So many.
In our city, we're talking about eight just in the city. So in 2 locations. So that's what's going on in our worlds right now. We do have some new resources for you. Look at this. Let's talk about products.
Oh my goodness, who made that?
Product placement. Here's what I did. You can watch. We'll put links in the below to how to buy this and how to look at me talking about it, and there'll be a bunch of stuff in the description below. Make a note of that, Gio. I've said that now. Gio's back there taking notes for us because she is. We're going to forget everything we said. Everything.
True.
When this podcast finished, it'll all leave our heads. So we need to put links to the
I'm not
what do you think that I wrote? What did I write?
You wrote a book?
A blog post.
Oh, you did.
And I wrote a book.
Yeah.
Now, and the book is this, right? Sometimes it's hard to explain what children's ministry is to someone who's never seen it. So let's just say you've got a new team and you're going, hey, you should come and serve in kids. And they go, you know what? Read this book. Come back and let's have a little chat about it. It's a big picture because when you get into children's ministry, you get into the nitty gritty. You got this many kids here. You need to make sure you don't lose any. You need to make sure they all go to the toilet and no one wets their pants and things don't go wrong. And what you need to do is take a step back and see the big picture of it. And so I highly recommend you give it to every single new leader that you have in your ministry.
Keen. I'm going to do that this weekend.
That's what we do. And I know there's a church, shout out to Peter Stowe, who 650 volunteers, and he's getting it for all of his volunteers.
Wow.
He's a legend. And I've been contacted a little bit by people that are doing that. Another friend of ours, Nari, is getting it for there. Anyway, it's turned out to be a real blessing to people, and they're enjoying it, and it's really helping them grow their team.
So good.
The second thing is, let's talk about songs of some silliness, Dan.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
We should probably show a clip here or something.
I was listening to this yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So,
hanging out with a toddler.
Again, links in the description below or links in the podcast, whatever it is. But Dan and I have been writing silly songs for over 10 years. Not silly songs that you'd find on VeggieTales, but they're songs of some silliness.
So then, yes, they're rooted in truth.
Yes.
Unlike the exploration of a
hairbrush,
unlocatable hairbrush,
or a water buffalo,
or a water buffalo.
Everyone has one.
Everyone has a water buffalo.
Very confused by that.
So, true story. Now the thing is about this album is
that makes no sense.
There's lots of songs about, for example, unlikely heroes. All through the Bible is full of unlikely heroes, and we are just like them, ordinary people. How does the song go?
So if we talked about Esther, we go.
What's the chorus?
Oh, we're ordinary people. These ordinary people did extraordinary things. Everyday people like me. And if God don't have no favorites, then you have to agree. There is an unlikely hero.
Unlikely hero, that was the word. Unlikely heroes is the song. So again, it's encouraging kids that they are just like ordinary, average people, just like people in the Bible were. So it's full of that. Check out all the songs are on YouTube right here. All the songs are on Spotify. They're everywhere. Get your kids listening to it. They'll love it.
I need to do one disclaimer.
Go on.
The song called It Was Science.
Yes.
It's just pure silly.
There
is zero
one
biblical truth in that.
There is one pure silly song, and that is that It Was Science.
And it will make no sense to anyone
which is
if
a
they
song
haven't
about,
seen the show.
Yes, which is a song about your husband, actually.
Oh, really?
Yes, because it's about him and Nathan went to the same school together. But in
the world of Big, you guys aren't married, I don't think.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, actually, no, they had a love.
That one episode,
Yeah.
way
true
back.
story.
I was
we should show a clip of that. That's exciting.
Oh, gosh.
That's an old video.
It was not a good look for me.
Well, you guys weren't even married then.
I think that was when we established that I can't act.
I'm going to post that on my YouTube channel this week, and we'll put a link to it.
Love
in the
it.
description.
Wow.
You write that down?
Got that, Gio? Make sure Dan does it. He's promised.
I've promised.
He's promised. And Terry listens to your promises.
Yes.
The other thing that we're doing is make sure you check out the Hillsong Kids YouTube channel. This is the channel we're trying to grow. This is on our Hillsong Kids second channel. We really want to grow this, but it's fairly fresh. Like as I'm talking right now, there's 60 subscribers, and there are currently almost 80,000.
Are there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
they're cool. They're really good.
Really committed.
Wow.
I think it's most of our own team.
That's so cool.
So we're trying to grow that because we want our Hillsong Kids channel to be for kids. We want this to be for leaders and parents. And you need to subscribe to all of them because we would really appreciate that.
Yes.
Now it's time to get to the part of the show where Dan sings a silly song. No, where we do some questions.
Ooh, I like it. Let's do this.
So I've got, now as I said before, I've got questions here that are not necessarily from you, the viewer, the listener, the watcher, the participator, our team members. They are from our own team and because you haven't had a chance to write them yet. But now
please
write
do.
them. Please do.
Write them right now.
And we want to hear from you. Even if you're facing something difficult in ministry, hard, we want to pray. We'll be praying for these. Any questions that come in that are serious, we're going to commit to praying for them at the end of each podcast. And make sure that you don't just go the silly, fluffy questions, easy ones. Give us the hard ones.
Totally.
We want hard questions. Except for Dan, he wants some fun questions.
Because I do think that we're not expecting to give you the golden answer, the golden ticket, the one thing. But I think it's just about sparking ideas and sparking a different way of looking at it that God could give you the answer through us discussing it.
So they might sit back and go, yeah, I'm not going to do none of that, but I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, at the very least, you'll say, now I know what I don't want to do.
Exactly. Before we start, I just want to let you know, just a quick update on the email creation.
Okay.
Yes. I've got a request ID. It's 5141.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So in our IT system, we've got the help desk request number.
Yep.
I'm just impressed.
5141.
I'm just impressed that
we're setting up the vault at hillsong.com.
Is it called the Vault?
Well, I probably should call it the Vault podcast.
No, the Vault's good. The Vault's good.
it sounds like real different.
Yeah.
Could be anything.
Could be anything.
Could be anything.
Well, that's
Could
what
be
the
a panic
podcast
room.
Wait.
A panic room for kids leader.
Panic room.
I can't handle it. The Vault.
Well, yes, we would have called it the panic room. Why? Here's the thing: we haven't explained why it's called the Vault podcast.
Why is it called the Vault?
This is a good.
Why is it?
So this is
I
why
just
it's
thought it sounded
called.
really cool.
It's called the
that's a good
Vault
start.
because the vault is where you keep your most precious things.
Oh.
And
And it's where the wisdom is.
We're precious.
We're
We're
precious.
precious.
And Terry's precious.
We're in the vault.
Yeah.
Terry's precious. But the idea is the vault is the holder of all knowledge.
Yeah.
And so together, and the guests that we have on in the future are going to be the holder of knowledge. And you are coming to the vault to unlock it and get what you need out of it.
Yeah.
It's like and I've got there's a
I like
picture of
it.
a vault. Anyway, we're rolling with that. We're going to roll with it. So Children's Ministry Podcast. By the way, did you know
What?
with your husband back 10 years ago, we started
Yeah.
children'sministrypodcast.com. I owned that for a while.
It's expired now, right?
I sold it, I think. I actually literally sold it.
job.
Really?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Did you make some
No, I
money?
didn't make any money. I vaguely remember because I had it and we Nathan and I did some
course you
episodes.
did. Yeah.
We did like 2 and then
We should dig it up.
Oh, I wonder if we've still got it.
That would be so fun.
All right, make a note. Gio, see if I can find the old episodes of the Children's Ministry Podcast. We might have done a dozen. I can't remember.
Yeah. I had a friend, this is off topic,
Yes.
but who had a name, his nickname, and he got the Instagram handle was just his nickname.
Right.
But it was also the name of a company in America. They
Yes.
paid him $20,000
$20,000
US. Isn't that amazing?
That is really, really good. I wish I was him.
And I'll tell you,
That was probably a
I
bargain
need
for
to
them
buy
too.
more stuff online.
Bitcoin. Let's get into Bitcoin. All right.
10 years ago.
Oh man, let's not go there.
No, give us the
I was so
question.
close. All right, we're talking about initiative here from Emma.
Ooh.
How do I teach my team initiative? I feel like I constantly have to remind the team during a service of the small things.
Ooh.
Not sure if a symptom of bad delegation. No, it's not, Emma. It's not you. It's them. Or whether they just lack confidence, willingness. She does have a good personal relationship with them. So
Yeah.
this is all about the little things and remembering the little things and having your team feel like, I guess, they're not doing they're not doing a job for somebody else, right? So I guess that's the question. Jess, what do you got?
It is hard because, you don't want to be, you don't want to micromanage people. People don't want you to be telling them what to do all the time. But
Correct.
I think it all depends on how you start and how you give people responsibility and keep them accountable to it. So I was actually thinking about this all week, and I wrote a really informative kind of draft run sheet for maybe teams to use that had leaders' instructions on it. Like, it's not a run sheet like a rally run sheet, but it's a program run sheet, and it's as simple as like hang time, doors open, make sure every child gets welcomed, play with every child, because I'm thinking about the future young person that's going to come into the room and want to lead, and they don't actually know what to do, and they just want to be told what to do. And so I'm thinking about that person going, well, we could actually just tell them what to do on the paper and on the way that we resource them.
Spell it out.
But then it's hard because you don't want that to squash initiative either, do you? Because if you tell everyone what needs to happen every step of the way, then
they also may feel stifled by that.
Yeah, exactly.
But there is that bridge you kind of have to. It's kind of once you get past that, and they know what to do, and they have the what do you call it, the initiative themselves, then everything is beautiful.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah.
I think letting that whole idea of you watch, I do. Mm-hmm. What's that thing, Dan? Do you know this one? You watch, I do. We do it together. Mm-hmm. I watch, you do, and then I watch, you do it, and then you do it. You're on yourself, by yourself. Mm-hmm. There's something that's very close to that on the internet. You should fact check that one.
Fact check.
No, you watch, I do. Yeah. Start it with that. But that idea of at some point you've got to let it go and drop it, and then hopefully they'll pick it up.
Yeah,
they'll never let it down.
You do an interesting method I've heard, which is you walk into a room and you tell not somebody that's not ready for it, but if it's their responsibility. I've heard that you walk into a room, Dave, and you say, there's 3 things wrong with this area. What are they? And you wait for them to answer it. Do you still do that?
This is how I learned. So back in the day when I started here, the kids pastor at the time, at the end of each Sunday night, we're wrapping up. It's got to be ready for Bible college on Monday. Claire, beautiful. And she'd walk in the room and go, there's 6 things wrong. And I go, I couldn't see them. That's the thing. I literally didn't see them because I was that new and fresh. And then over time, I began to see them, and then I began to do it. And it was this idea of you don't spoon feed. That first step was getting me to see it.
Yeah.
And once that's crossed, it's like that thing. I didn't even know what I didn't know. Yeah. I didn't know what I wasn't doing. And so now I haven't done it in a long time.
It sounds so brutal, but there's people that are really grateful that you did that.
Oh, I
remember our youth pastor when we were in youth, and my husband didn't pack away the tennis table properly.
Right.
And he'd driven half an hour away to come and hang out and have dinner, and then the youth pastor asked him to come back and do it.
Yep.
Even though he could have done it himself, but he knew Nathan's leadership capacity and where Nathan wanted to go, and what Nathan needed was that ownership and that accountability. So I think knowing where your team are at and their goals is a big thing.
If they've committed to that journey, then you're gonna hold them to that.
So I guess it's like if they are, I think you can expect more from a team leader than from a team member. And if you have outlined on, say, a job profile, I love having like a job profile or a position description for a team leader so that they know what they've signed up for. And if they've signed up for it and then you keep them accountable to that, well, then you're just keeping them to the journey that they're already committed to, right?
Yeah, and that's the commitment is the big thing. You want to get that buy-in initially, because you've got to almost say it. Listen, I'm going to probably talk about things you haven't even noticed. Yeah, like don't be surprised when things are popping up that you haven't thought about, because this is what this journey's about. Yeah,
and you know what? It's right now. It's what month is it? It's almost September. If you like have a culture and the lack of initiative is driving you a little bit mental, you could actually choose now to go, okay, what do I want next year? Let's get a position description. Let's meet with all my key team. Let's get them to commit that next year we're really going to take things forward, because it's a great time to be talking about the journey and where people are at and what they want to get out of it, and to sign them up for next year and sign them up for the commitment, because I love when commitment is, they know that it's for a year and then after that it can be revised. They don't feel like they're signing up for a life sentence of high intensity leadership. Because some people can have that in their mind. We know it's not a life sentence. We know that it's the greatest, most fulfilling thing you could ever do. But I think people need to have a start date and end date and know what they've signed up for. And that really helps with initiative and excellence.
The pressure is off.
So just a fact check. It's called the leadership square.
Yep.
It's I do, you watch.
Yes.
And then I do, you help. And then you do, I help. And then you do, I watch. So that's the thing. Now, a couple other...
Oh, what else?
I just want to add it to what you're saying. We're talking about how people are blind to things and need to learn how to see. So there's a famous experiment by Daniel J. Simmons who basically got a class of people to watch a video of 2 different basketball teams passing a basketball to each other, and they had to count how many times the white team passed the basketball to another white team member, and they just watched and they watched and they watched. And at the end they said, how many times? Everyone said 15. Yep. They said, great. Now, did you see the gorilla? And a gorilla walked inside in the middle of the screen, beat his chest, and then walked out.
So funny.
And they worked out it's because half the people didn't see it. It's because that we actually have very limited high high-res space in our eyes.
Right.
So high resolution. So you're
focus?
constantly editing things out. So while I'm focused on you, I actually can't see Jess right now, and I can't see what's happening around
Well,
her.
I'm a pretty good-looking man.
Well, exactly. You're mesmerised.
Yeah.
So it goes to show that if your brain doesn't deem something as important, it edits it out. And so the problem is, and with this question is, they don't see the little things. Well, what are the little things? You need to work out what are the important little things, and get them to teach them how to deem it as important. Yeah. So therefore they'll see it. And you'll probably notice that if there's 12 things that they're missing, if you just point out maybe 2, they're probably going to pick up 5.
Yeah, true. You're good at that. Yeah, there you go. There's my compliment for the
Oh,
day.
great. Thank you.
Compliment of the day done. But the thing is also that you get what you talk about and you get what you resource.
Yep.
Right.
So the worst thing ever is when somebody takes initiative and then the resource that they're relying on isn't there. And then they rock up again the next week and there's another resource that they were relying upon is not there. And then before you know it, they're demotivated. So I think what you talk about matters, what you resource matters, and what you inspect matters, like what you actually ask questions about. It's not inspecting
No.
A detective.
Well, that's it.
It's asking questions about how was your KDG? Did you have all the resource you needed? Yeah. What do you think we could do better? That's inspecting.
Yeah, well, you want to give people no excuse, really. You want to give them everything they need to succeed. And then that's all up to them. Mm-hmm. Love it.
Inspect what you expect.
Inspect what you expect.
I thought I said it wrong and you were correcting me.
No.
Fact check.
What you said was great.
Fact check.
You just didn't use the preacher phrase.
Right.
Yeah. Because nothing you said rhymed.
And it didn't have alliteration.
Yeah, sorry. So no one's going to remember it.
Wow. It's gone.
Question number 2. Here we go. We're talking about limited space. From Mel, when you got limited space and have to put ARC grade 6 together, which is, we're talking 4-year-olds to 12-year-olds together, how do you cater effectively for the development needs within all of the kids together?
I had the
Doing
privilege-
ministry in one room is the question.
Yeah. I had the privilege, and I think Dan might have seen a bit of this before, but like traveling around, seeing some of our locations that are not in permanent facilities, all sharing. I remember our Northern Beaches location, all in the one room, and to make it even more challenging was they had one of those temporary movable walls in between them and the main congregation. So not only did they actually had 0 to 12 all in one room, but then the noise leakage was out of this world. But they did their absolute best to create age group spaces. So they would they fenced off whole sections of the room for Cubby House and for the Ark, which the really
1 to
little
3
ones and the middle little ones. And then they even put like signage up to try and get that age group identity. And they had age-appropriate toys in the different spaces. They had a rally space set up. They did their rally all together because they needed to smash it out at a certain time frame. And but they actually had a screen in every corner as well, and they just played the big message again, the age-appropriate big message to each little corner of the room. And that was wild, and they really put in a lot of effort into it. Another thing is just the how you resource the room, how you set up little zones. I'm just thinking about the smaller places where you don't have as many people as them. I'm just looking over, I've got some KDG tubs that someone's just gifted our location. And they're...
Fact check, what's a KDG, Dan?
It stands for Kids Discipleship Group.
Good fact checking. That's our small groups for kids.
Yeah, even if it's like the age-appropriate curriculum or crafts, like anyone can do that. Anyone can make sure that age group has the right activity for their level. And that is something that we definitely can do that's going to really impact the kids.
Absolutely. Again, you're giving no excuse to the leaders not to nail it because you're giving everything they need.
Totally.
And my suggestions for one room ministry is you make a corner, if you can, for preteens. So you fence off a corner, even just tape. Masking tape is the gift of the Lord, God's gift to children's ministry. Masking tape off a corner, put a beanbag and something in there. And the only kids allowed in that space are year 5 and 6, grade 5 and 6, which is our last 2 years of primary school, or whatever the upper end of your ministry. And make a separate space for them, because those older kids really don't want to hang out with 3-year-olds. And if you make them feel like they've got their own space, it's going to help them have a better attitude about being in church. Yeah. Just one thought.
And then maybe if they've got a second service, if they've got that space in one of the services, they'll be more inclined to go and actually be a leader for the younger ones in the next service and go and lead a group of 3-year-olds, because my daughter's in that age bracket. She led a group of 3-year-olds brilliantly, and they're so capable of contributing, the older ones to the younger ones, but they need the structure for it and they need the space to do it and the parameters,
Absolutely.
So I think what we're saying...
What are we saying,
What we're saying is that we don't... There's no magic pill to do everything, to cater to all developmental needs, but we want you to keep trying to give each individual age groups their identity, and that's a creativity question. And so what you said, we'll encourage everybody that limitations is not bad for creativity. It's actually good.
Very good.
If you had a blank page is the worst thing.
It's terrifying.
If you had $1 million and you a space the size of a small city, what would you do? You would have no clue. But this is what we've got, and then we're going to try and make that work to give these age groups their identity.
Love it. Question number 3. I'm making notes here so I remember which questions we asked.
Good.
I just
how
feel
organised of you.
How good is this going, guys?
It's really
just
good.
It's working.
Next question.
Okay.
What do you do with all age groups in one room? The system doesn't work.
I've blown it. Okay, here we go. This is kind of a personal leadership one, which is good. How do you separate how well you're doing in ministry from the numbers? So, for example, let's be honest, our leaders, our leadership, our location pastors, our senior pastors, they look across the church and they see numbers. That's really because that's one way that they can evaluate the ministry and how it's going. And often to us we go, well, it's not just about the numbers; it's about kids, and kids love Jesus, and you should see how many kids love Jesus. And so, when our leadership is wanting kind of numbers, and sometimes those numbers can be disappointing, rain, sport, whatever it is, how do you separate your own worth, maybe, or your own the way that you see yourself, I think, because you can get pretty down when those numbers are down.
I think redefine your win.
Good.
Like, focus on something that you actually can control. I mean, we all impact the number that's in our kids' ministry. The quality will impact the size of how many families buy into church life ultimately, but that's a really long-term thing. But one week to the next, rain, sports, sickness, all that stuff, or even a weird season where there were less children born that year, 2 years ago, can impact things.
Wow.
So we actually did that once. We looked at how many people were born in a particular campus because one year level was really small and it was just less were born. But the thing is that you need to define that win. You determine whether your team win. Not the numbers. So you can determine how many kids you encourage, how many encouragement awards you give out.
Yes.
You can set your own indicators.
And I talk about that in my new book, If Only You Knew.
Wow.
I do actually talk about defining a win for you on the weekend, because you want to look at your own personal leadership as you need to have a win yourself. You need to have a win as a leader. And a really great way for me is if I'm on a weekend service and I'm doing a small group with a bunch of kids, I really want to have one great meaningful discussion. I want kids to be engaged 100%. And if I can get to that moment, even if it's with one kid and I'm sitting beside them playing Connect 4, whatever, or it's with a small group, if I can have that one conversation, then I feel like my weekend was a success. Totally. That's just one example.
Totally.
And so what is your, read the book and I'll give you a lot of examples.
Yeah.
But really, what is a win for you personally?
Yeah, totally.
Now, you may be leading worship, or what is it? What is it in the area that you're doing? Even if you're running the sound and lights, maybe a win is having the projector not blow up. That could be a great win.
And I think be okay with your leader asking questions about your stats. You need to separate your identity from your stats. So you also need to understand God doesn't care any more, any less about you determined on the number. I know you know that, but it needs to really sink in. But neither does your leader. They love you and they respect you, but it's their job to ask questions. This is our campus pastors, our senior pastors flock. If they want to ask a billion questions about the stats, just get about it and write down your observations. Be intelligent about it, but don't let that make you think that they don't think you're doing a good job, or don't tell yourself a story in your head, because it's just not true.
Our leaders really trust us, and I know that because they don't ask a lot of questions about what we do. In fact, probably in since 2001, I've only had really one big question about the kind of discipleship our kid, like from one of our location pastors, asked a really big question about the discipleship of kids. That's happened once in almost 20 years. So, and that's not, and that's, I'm not even saying that should happen more, but I'm just saying the questions that matter to us and the things that we think about all the time may not be on other people's minds. So, next question. We're talking about pastors' kids. We might. This might be our last one for today, but we're going to talk about pastors' kids.
There's one in the room.
There's one in the room over here.
I was in, where was I? Nashville recently, and the pastor kid there was excited to go to pastor kids camp.
Right.
At Life Church, they have a pastors kids camp.
Right.
Wow.
So your church may do some things for pastors' kids, but let's talk. So there's this saying here: is how do we keep our pastors' kids engaged when they're doing multiple services? How do we support them, and how do you connect with them? Yeah, parents and all that. Questions about pastors' kids.
So in summary, what's the deal with pastors' kids?
100%. Now, I have pastors' kids. I have 3 of them.
Really?
Yeah. Jess has got 2 of them.
Yeah.
Dan has 3 kids, but
they're not pastors' kids. Yeah, that's a different ministry.
I don't know. It's very different. They have their own camp. It's just them
home
at home making craft. Let's start off with the idea that came to me from via our London pastor Gary, who was, and maybe I shouldn't have used his name, but no. But his idea was, one of the leaders says, the conversation went, hey, just so you know, Gary, I'm not treating your kids any different than other kids. And his response was, hang on, why not? You should be. The reality is, when you think about pastors' kids, they have different pressures on them. Like, we're talking about multiple services. We're talking about they've got way more relationships, friendships with other kids around them, and other leaders around them. They may know the leaders better than all the other kids put together. Yeah. And so here's the thing is, my perspective on that conversation was this: at Hillsong Kids and at your church, we really want to treat everybody as an individual and their individual needs and what they are, what's expected of them, but also what they need. And that's our first stance. Now, we can't do that all the time. Everybody needs to be in praise and worship at the same time. You can't have half your team go. You can't ask, hey, everybody, who wants to do praise and worship now? Who wants to do it later? Let's structure. There needs to be structure, but within that structure, we need to be treating kids the way that they need to be treated. And most of the time, it's all the same. Yeah. But occasionally, so for example, in the city here, we have all of our location pastors here have kids, and we work with them to make it work. If they need to be there multiple services, let's say the 9:30 and the 11:30 at Duty Street, then in the 11:30, we're going to make a little room for them. Our mum and dad have packed a lunch for them. They've got their iPads. They're chilling out for that service. And it's safe. It's open. We don't have to have leaders with them. We've organised it beforehand. But we are treating those kids perhaps differently than we would treat the kids that are just there for one service.
The Christianity Today, there's 5 things pastors' kids struggle with.
Yes.
So one was unrealistic expectations. Second one is like people expecting way too much of them. Stereotypes that they will be the proper kids. A calling to ministry, that's a given.
Right, they're going to be pastors, right?
Socializing with their age group. A lot of time they are dragged from house to house, and they've not have kids their own age group. And erratic schedules.
That's the one for us.
Yeah,
that's the big one for us.
Yeah.
I think in our church there's a lot. It's so wide, our church, and so many services going on that there's. I think in some churches maybe you've got one location, and everybody knows the pastor's family because they're all there together. I think there's for us, our big pressure is just the amount of services our kids have to go to, and going around all over the place with schedules.
But I would say, like, it's our job to speak life into them. Kids are capable of way more than we give them credit for. Like, my kids went to 5 services every Sunday, and I've heard other people go, oh no, poor them, or be shocked about that. But actually, when we've done that, they've got epic endurance. They love life. They love church.
Oh, and what a blessing.
And they're amazing. Totally. And I just think we just don't want to be like, oh, poor you're a pastor's kid. That's so hard. And we actually don't want to even give them that label. Because some kids my kids didn't even know they were pastors' 100%. Kids until a couple of years ago. And I love that. Yep. They were like, oh.
I've heard stories in our church of that. Yeah. You become a teenager and somebody goes, oh, how is it being a pastor's kid? They go, so what?
What?
What's that? Because that's a great thought. That's a really, really great thought. Yep. I think we can get to the 7 p.m. and my daughter is running the whole service. So she doesn't want to
Such
go
a
home
boss.
still at the 7 p.m. service. She's there. She's managing all the kids, and they're all going on an adventure together to the jumping castle, whatever it is. They're still loving life. And I think it's looking at each kid individually and going, what does this kid need in this season?
In this moment.
And because they may be grumpy. They could be grumpy with church for a few months. Maybe they just have something going on in their life. But that's okay. It's a season and it'll pass. And how do you navigate that?
Great. Love it.
We got through
So
questions.
good.
Great.
This is really good. We want to hear more of your questions on the Vault podcast, Children's Ministry.
Let me just fact check that.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
We do want to hear more
really
questions. Oh, good. It's good to have a bit, Dan.
Yeah, it's
you've got a purpose for being here.
If only I started that before, if only I knew.
So listen, comment your questions below, but more importantly, we'd love to get them emailed, especially if they contain personal information or any kind of don't send us those. I'd rather get them on email. Let's put it that way.
Yes, so email us at request ID
hashtag
hashtag
don't do that.
5.
It'll be okay.
Oh no, sorry.
It'll either be at kids.hillsong.com or the vault.
Hillsong.
It'll be in the description below. It'll be on the
We'll find
podcast
out.
notes. It's going to be somewhere. Make sure you like and subscribe. We want to grow this channel.
Yes.
We want to make this podcast amazing. How do we finish a podcast, Dan?
Well, we see of what Terry thinks about it.
Okay, is it time to finish, Terry?
Terry, how did we go? Oh, yes.
good.
Yeah,
All right.
fantastic.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Terry.
2 feet up.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time on The Vaults.